What's up, guys? Welcome to week 35 of It Sports Says. We have a very, very special guest coming on today to teach us all about rugby, because that is definitely one sport I don't know a whole lot about. But I am Christine. I am your average Joe Schmo when it comes to sports knowledge, and I am here to ask all the questions that you guys would have at home.
And I am Sarah, I am your self-proclaimed sports expert. But this week, I'm going to be right along there with Christine and you guys at home because I know nothing about rugby. I started watching some of Jason's games just to say that I watched them. And I was just like, I mean, they're in a gigantic like lockup. I don't even know how to describe it. It's like all of them are like this. And then sometimes they do like 1, 2, down, up, cheerleader moves, and touchdowns are 5 points. Like I literally don't know any of the terminology. So you guys, hopefully you will be learning alongside Christine and I today because we know absolutely nothing about rugby.
The only thing that I know about rugby is there's a position called the hooker. That is the only thing I know, and I can't wait to ask Jason about it.
Oh my God.
There's a position called the hooker.
And I hope Jason is not the hooker, but I want to know who the hooker is on his team.
They came to DC, like, or in Ashburn, where I live in Northern Virginia, and they played like 5 minutes from my house, but we couldn't get tickets for it. It was really unfortunate. I'll have to tell him that.
Yes.
Knock, knock. Are you there?
Jason's here. All right. You ready to admit?
Ready,
set, go.
There you are.
Yay. Okay, I told Christine, I have notes, Jason, and obvious. I hope you were able to like read over them. And I apologize in advance because we're literally like, we know nothing. Like I watched a couple of your games and that's when I was just like frivolously like writing down all of the questions that I have because we know absolutely nothing. But I feel like my first question after looking at you all bumped, bruised, and bandaged is what type of like equipment are you wearing? Like, do you wear a helmet?
No, they just wear a mouthpiece and cleats. That's about it.
So Some guys
have like a scrum cap, which you'll see is like a little, kind of looks like just a little cap that they wear on their head. It's mainly to protect your ears though.
I was going to say, it looks like what guys wear in wrestling.
Yeah, it's similar. It's just a little flatter on the sides. It's because like in the scrums and stuff, a lot of guys will get cauliflower ear. So put that on to save it a little bit.
Got it. And then what about I saw a lot of like quad sleeves. I don't know what they are.
Oh, so yeah. You're talking about like tape on the quads?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's for the lineouts. So you know where I think it was your cheerleading question mark on the sheet. Yeah, so those are called lineouts, and it's like you tape and you put a little like brick in there to help the front lifter have a grip.
So it's like a cheerleading stunt.
Sure.
Kind of. That's what whenever you're throwing the ball.
Oh yeah, throwing them up. Yeah.
Okay, you like lift up one of your team members, like 1, 2, down, up, and they catch the ball.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Toss it in.
We've kind of dabbled already into all equipment and the scrums and the cheerleading moves. So let's rewind. We need to introduce you, Jason. So tell us who you are and how you spell your name, because I feel like this is, a common mistake whenever you spell your name and people say it. That's
correct. Yeah. I'm Jason Damm. I play for Rugby Atlanta in the MLR. DAMM, commonly mispronounced. It's how we used to weed out the telemarketers back in the home phone days.
Nice. Very
I'm not going to lie. Whenever I first read your last name, I thought it was Damm. So whenever Sarah came on and she was like, yeah, Jason, send it to Jason Damm at gmail.com or whatever. I was like, thank God you said that, because I thought it was Jason Damm.
That's okay. Yeah, you wouldn't be the first person or the last. So most of the announcers still say Damm.
Just kind of
grown used to it.
Yes.
Yeah, I hear you. Both of our maiden names. Obviously, my name is Sarah Owens. It's a lot easier to say than our maiden name, which is Creshon, but it's pronounced it's spelled Kreshon. And so we get crouton and Creshon, and I don't never Creshon.
Crouton was always my favorite.
Yeah, crouton.
Because it doesn't look like it's spelled anything like crouton, but
people, they just see what they want to see.
Yeah,
exactly. But we are so excited to have Jason on with us today because we obviously, like Sarah said, we know nothing about rugby. So we are excited to have you here to teach us so we can be fans too. So when did you get started playing rugby?
So I started my senior year of high school. Like most people, I grew up playing, football and basketball, all sorts of sports.
Yeah.
Never really even heard of rugby outside of like a video game that one of my friends had. And I had an English buddy after football season ended my senior year. He convinced me to come out and play, and I never looked back because it's addictive for sure.
It seems very violent just looking at you on the other edge of this camera. So let's start super high level. So the point of a rugby game, how do you win?
Score more points than the other team. So, I mean, there's different ways to score points and stuff. But, I mean, the keys to me for being a fan is if it's your first couple times watching a game, just don't try to understand it.
Yeah.
Just look at the things that you understand. Do you understand running? You understand tackling? So just like find the excitement in that. And then as you watch more and more, you'll kind of pick things up along the way.
Got it.
So whenever you score a touchdown, like what is that called and how many points is it? Is it similar in football where it's 6 points or how much is it?
So it's called a try.
I knew it.
And you have to score.
A tie.
A tie.
We're so close.
T-R-Y.
I was watching, like I said, I was watching all of your games this morning and I was like, Christine, I think it's called a tie. And she's like, why would it be called a tie? And I was like,
that's confusing.
I was like, I don't know. They just said tie so many times. It was try. Obviously, I didn't understand them properly. So,
but you were close.
So a try.
Accents. Too many announcers with accents.
Yes, probably.
So kind of like in football, you score the try, but instead of just crossing the line like in football, you have to cross the line and touch it down.
Onto the ground.
If you think about football, it originated from rugby. So that's why it's called a touchdown.
Yes.
In football, right?
So like literally, Christine, Jason, I watched your game versus Louisiana and you had a try and you, or New Orleans, was it New Orleans, Louisiana?
Yeah, NOLA.
Yeah. Okay. So you literally he broke through 3 defenders and is it called a goal line?
Yeah, try line.
Try line. Okay. And we'll go through the field in a minute because we'll need a little bit of help there too. Yeah. So you cross the line and then instead of football where literally the player can be holding the ball and it can just touch the plane of the end zone, and rugby, do you have to cross the complete try line to get it in and touch it down?
So if you could touch it down on the line too, it just has to be touched down under control. Because if you lose it forward out of your hands, then it doesn't count. So this weekend is a great example of a difference between football and rugby. We just played New Orleans again. An attacker got over the try line, but he tackled him backwards behind it, so it didn't count as a try because he never got the ball down.
He didn't put the ball down. Got it.
The guy was kind of reaching to put it down, and he pulled him back.
So you have to physically put the ball to the ground. Do you need to touch your knee to the ground or anything, or just the ball touches the ground?
No, just the ball touched the ground. Just downward pressure on the ball.
Okay.
So
and that's
whenever you
score, 5 points.
That's 5 points. Yeah.
Okay. And then there's some sort of extra point, but there's just 2 people on the field, right?
So yeah, when you kick, the other team stays in the try zone. And you kick the points from wherever it was scored. So if you score it all the way in the far left side, you have to kick from all the way on the far left side, if that makes sense.
So where it's scored in the end zone, not from where it's scored. It's not like you started on the 50-yard line and you have to kick the 2 points from the 50. It's just where it is in the try zone.
Yeah, it's like if you took a line from where you scored and put it straight like down the field,
Yeah.
you can kick from anywhere along that line, but it has to be so like when you're far to the left, you kind of want to come back a bit because then you have a better angle on the goalpost, if that makes sense.
Yes. Okay. That
So
makes
you're
sense.
trying to kick for 2 extra points in like a field goal post.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
Yeah.
above a soccer goal.
Kind of. It's just instead of like a normal football post where it's one and then splits off into the big, what you think of on a football post. It's just the post goes all the way straight down because it's at the front of the try zone as opposed to the back like in a football game.
Got it. Okay. So does the try zone, you have to go around that goal? What I keep wanting to call the field goal. The post.
The goal post.
The goal post. Okay. So they're at the front. So you have to go around that. Can you like touch?
Yeah, I mean, you could score it against the post because they're like pads on it so that you don't.
You can like touch the ball on the post, or it still has to be on the ground.
Yeah. So they might have actually recently changed it, but for a long time, you can score it at the bottom of the post. Like if the post can't stop you from scoring, if that makes sense.
Got it. Very cool. Very cool. Okay. So we've got 5 points for a try, 2 points for the extra. What are those called? 2 points?
Yeah. Just a shot on goal, go kick for points sort of deal.
Kick for points.
Extra points. Yeah.
And then any other way to score?
Yeah. So there's a penalty kick.
Okay.
Like think of in soccer, if you get a penalty, and you're on the field, you could kick for points, and that's worth 3.
Okay.
So sometimes it's easier to just take that option if you have a really good defensive team, or if you're just like we did it this weekend. We were down. It was 5-7, and there were 10 minutes left. So we could have gone to the corner and tried to score, but we kicked for points because we knew it would give us the lead. So we ended up winning 8-7.
Wow, what a close game!
Yeah, it was really tight.
So whenever you have possession of the ball, how do you lose possession?
So there's a lot of different ways to lose possession, but the basics, right? When you have the ball, you can only pass it either directly, laterally, or backwards. That's
it's like football, unless you're the quarterback. But in rugby, you can't even throw it forward at all.
You can't throw it forward. No, if it goes forward, then you lose the ball. Like the other team gets
you throw it like behind you, and then that person runs forward until what? Like
they're tackled.
Until they get tackled. So when a person is tackled, instead of it just being like football where everything stops and you reset, there's a thing called a ruck. So a ruck is where someone's tackled, but rugby's all about fair contest for the ball so that you can win it at any moment. So like in the lineouts, it's equal contest for the ball. And a kickoff, you can contest for the ball. In scrums, it's equal contest, which we can go into later. But at a ruck, when they get tackled, you kind of put the ball back as far as you can, but the other team can come and try and push your guys back so that they can take the ball.
Is the ruck this thing?
That's like more of a scrum. Are you talking about where all the people are in?
Is the ruck where like there's a guy who's like bent down on and then somebody comes behind him?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. One guy on the ground pushing the ball backwards, and then somebody normally comes over top of them.
Yes, over the top of them. That's right. And then somebody else comes and grabs the ball from them and then starts running forward.
Right. Or pass it to somebody else.
Okay. That makes sense. Perfect. Okay. So you can get tackled and both teams can get the ball during the ruck. I keep wanting to say scrum during the ruck.
People mix those up all the time.
Okay. And then they can pass it, they can hand it off, whatever, and whoever gets it, gets it. What about at the beginning of the game? Is it a coin toss?
It's a coin toss, classic sports.
Got it. And is there a kickoff like football?
Mm-hmm. So there's a kickoff. It's different. It's not from a tee, it's a drop kick. So you hold the ball in your hands, drop, bounces once, and you kick it. It has to go at least 10 meters, which is like a dotted line on the field. And like I was saying earlier, it's equal contest for the ball. So if your team gets down to or you could kick it really high and have your guys jump and try and contest against their ball, almost like a jump ball in basketball.
Yeah. Okay.
And you'll see people get lifted like in the lineouts off of kickoffs too, because you want to, if it's kicked really high, you want to give your guy a better chance. So you lift them up higher than the opponent.
Christine, have you seen it? It literally looks like a cheerleading stunt.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's almost like it's like 5 dudes. Everyone comes together and lifts this one guy up, right?
Yeah, normally like two, one in the front, one in the back, and they're not light guys. Everyone,
Yeah.
about the guys who get
Jason.
lifted are like 220 to 250.
I was gonna say,
normally.
Jason, tell everybody, if you don't mind, how tall you are and how much you weigh.
I'm 6'4", 245,
So
248
you
some
getting
days,
lifted, is there a certain guy that is assigned to that position that just gets lifted up, or they?
Yeah. So rugby, one thing that really makes it different from other sports is that the number the player is wearing is their position. It's not like I'm gonna wear the same number every time. I do because I start at my position, so I kind of get to wear the same number every time. But if I come off the bench, I'll be wearing a different number than if I started.
Got it. Okay, because I was reading an article and they said they were talking about you, but were saying that you were like one of the best 8s. And I was like trying to like, you know what I mean? Like I have in my head, like it's just his number, but that's your position.
Mm-hmm. So okay. Yeah, my position is number 8 or 8th man.
Okay.
So it'll be 8 on the back of my jersey. But
yes,
normally the guys who get lifted up will be 4 through 8.
Okay.
So one of those guys.
So everybody, no matter what team you're on, will have, if they're an 8, they're all playing the same position. So that 8 on the opposing team is the same as 8 on your team.
That's right.
That makes sense. Okay. So what is your position?
So I'm an 8th man, which we could break it down into some subcategories here. So 8th man is like very specific. If you want to go pull back a little bit, I'm a back row, which is, if you think about the scrum, 6, 7, and 8 are on the outside of the scrum, so they're considered the back row.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Will you clarify what scrum is?
Yeah, let me.
That's this thing.
I got a picture.
I know you keep doing this, but I don't know what that means.
This is one team. This is the other team, and they're literally like they just like bop each other.
But when do they do that?
Oh, I don't know.
There's a little bit of a drawing. It's a bit of a cluster F.
But that's what it seems like Sarah's hands are doing, is a cluster.
I mean, it is literally a cluster.
Yeah. It's a cluster. So it's like all 8 forwards on each side. You see the 8 at the back.
Yep.
1, 2, 3 in the front. 4, 5 put their heads in between the legs of 1, 2, and 3. And then 6, 7, and 8 are on the back.
Like they're literally like this, Christine.
So when do you guys scrum?
So a scrum happens when you knock the ball on, which means you drop it forward or you pass it forward.
But I didn't think
you can't. That's another thing. You're not. Exactly, you're not. So if the other team drops it forward or passes it forward, then there's a scrum to the opposing team. So like this weekend, it was super slippery in NOLA, so guys kept dropping the ball. So there were a lot of scrums.
So, and the scrum, okay, so let's say you drop the ball, Jason, which I'm sure you never do, but
doesn't happen.
Never happens. But if you do drop the ball, the other team gets a scrum and they're doing the thing. And
they're doing the thing.
So the opposite team, let's say NOLA, he gets the guy, since you dropped the ball, the NOLA team member gets to put the ball in the basket.
That's one way to put it. Yeah, I like that. Put the ball in the basket. So if there's no baskets,
they're all woven together.
Yeah.
Like
so think about
in the scrum. Okay.
Yeah. If everyone leans in together, you put your shoulders on the guy in front of you and you're pushing really hard. So the opposing team gets to kind of roll the ball in the middle of that. And your player can hook it with his foot. So he can like kind of kick it back through your guys. And then the 8 man, my position at the back, kind of stops it. And he can either let the guy who put it in pass it out, or he can run it himself, or I could pass it out.
Okay. So the opposing team, Christine, gets the ball, the rugby ball, and there's like a hole in both sides of the scrum. And the player from the opposite team takes the ball and just like throws it in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is
like
there
a
any
gentle
sort of
roll.
That's the basket that you keep saying.
Yes, the basket is the
Yeah,
scrum.
the
Yes, and so the
metaphorical
ball is
basket.
thrown into the hole of the basket. Is there any sort of strategy on where he's throwing it? Like, is he trying to throw it to his team?
Yeah, so you're supposed to roll it down the middle, but it always kind of ends up going to your team side.
Got it.
That's just something that happens. So, and
Okay.
your number 2 is called a hooker, which may be a little scandalous, but it's
Literally
because
the
they
only
hook the
position
ball
I've ever
back.
heard of.
Christy was
There you
like,
go.
Sarah, I can't wait for you guys to talk about positions because the only thing I know about rugby is that there's a position called the hooker, and I can't wait to ask Jason about it.
And I was
Yeah.
semi low-key hoping that you were the hooker.
No, I'm not the hooker. I'm a bit
I'm
too
like,
tall. They're
Jason-
normally smaller guys. Well, not smaller, shorter, stouter.
Got
hefty.
it.
So what does the hooker do? Does he throw the ball? He hooks it back?
Yeah, with his foot though, because his hands are
Oh,
grabbing the guys next to him. So he's
like a
in the
horse.
middle. If we go back to the diagram here,
Yes.
you see the number 2 in the middle,
Yes.
kind of. This guy,
Yep.
that's the hooker.
Okay.
So
So
he'll
he's in
try
the
and
middle
hook
of
it
the
back
pack.
to push the ball. Yeah,
And
So both
only
his
the
arms are
hooker
back.
can kick the ball.
No, but it's very hard for other guys to get their feet off the ground, if that makes sense. Like a scrum, it might not look very intense, but it's 8 guys against 8 guys pushing as hard as they possibly can. Just building like really intense pressure. Your eyes feel like they're going to bulge out and stuff. So like it's the reason the hooker can do it is because he's in the middle. So
There's not as much pressure.
Exactly. So he can
And
lift
he's
that foot
smaller,
off.
so maybe even sometimes his feet are off the ground. If he has all these
Yeah.
big men around him, he can
Yeah.
just, he's got his little
Dangling.
feet dangling and he can just whip it back there.
Exactly.
His little feet dangling.
His little
Exactly.
feet are dangling. I'm just like picturing the hooker being like a little leprechaun. They're all gigantic, you guys.
Yeah,
Like
well,
we're talking.
the hookers are like little leprechauns. They
They
always have
are?
beards. Yeah, they're normally under 6 foot. Not that there's anything wrong with that. fellas.
Nothing wrong with that. Michael.
They
They're
make
normally
good hookers though.
That's right. They make great hookers, and that's the beautiful thing about rugby is it's a sport for all shapes and sizes. If you're super tall, there's a spot for you. If you're very short, there's a spot for you. If you're a hefty fella, there's always a spot for you. If you're skinny and fast, there's a spot. There's a position that fits every body type. So
Very
it's
cool.
super inclusive in that way.
I love it. Okay, so how many men are on the field at once?
So there's 15 versus 15.
Okay. And is
we
it
can
like
split that up.
is it like, okay, so football, if you're second string, like unless the first string guy gets severely injured, like it's rare that you're going to go in, whereas hockey is just like constant, right? So is it are you constantly changing out, or do you have your core 15 in and then there's some backups?
Yeah, so you have your 15 and then you have 8 substitutes.
Okay.
So once a substitute comes on, the player who came off can't go back on unless there's like an extreme circumstance for safety reasons. But so like if you get subbed out, you're out for the rest of the game basically.
Did you have to come out when you got stitches?
No, they just put a little glue on it. And then I got the stitches done after the game.
Do they stop the game whenever there's injuries?
So if the injury is in the way of the play, then they stop it. Like you'll see a guy down on the field and an AT will come out and like, be helping him and assisting him and stuff. And if it kind of gets in the way of the play, they'll stop it. Or if it's like really bad, they'll stop it. If not, then they'll just wait till there's a stop in play, like a knock on, or it goes into touch, which means out of bounds. And then they'll wait for that person to get off.
Got it. Okay. So this brings up a question that I didn't even have on the sheet, but how long is a rugby game?
It's 80 minutes, 2 40-minute halves.
Wow.
But it's not like it's kind of like soccer where there's add time. So it doesn't just stop at the 80-minute mark. It goes like the other game we played for 83 minutes, and it's because there's no stoppage. So if there's not a knock on or a penalty or the ball goes out of bounds or, points are scored, then it could keep going until that happens.
Got it. Okay. Do you know how much the rollover is?
It could be infinite. Like, in theory,
So I mean, like, I guess
So,
per game, like, did you know that there was going to be 3 minutes of extra time at the end
well,
of the
no,
game?
it was just because nothing stopped play. So if play doesn't get stopped for a reason, then it just keeps going. So like
Got it.
the other week when we played Toronto, we had an attacking opportunity was in the 79th minute. So like in theory there's 1 minute left, but we kept playing, we didn't drop the ball, there were no penalties. And so the game only stopped when we scored the try to win the game because that was the stoppage in play.
Got it. So that's why it was only 3 minutes. Okay, that makes sense. So what would be a stoppage in play? You said what's out of bounds?
Into touch.
A touch.
Yeah, like you go into they call it like the touch line.
The touch line. Okay. Out of bounds is the touch line. Okay. And then what else would stop play? Obvious. Does a scrum stop play? No.
Yeah, if they're because that would be like because of a knock on. So if they drop the ball forward, then it stops the play. If there's a penalty, it doesn't necessarily stop the play. They changed that recently so that if you get a penalty at the end of the game, you can still kick it to get a line out or go for points.
Okay.
So that doesn't necessarily stop the game, or if points are scored, that's a stoppage of play.
Okay, that makes sense. So back to the penalties. Obviously, we know you cannot advance or throw a forward lateral in football terms. You cannot throw the ball in forward lateral. It has to be lateral or the same, like behind you.
Yeah,
or
backward, like diagonal. Think
yes.
about you put your arm straight out to the side.
Yes.
It could either be that way or
backwards. Got it. But you can run it forwards. What are some other penalties? Because obviously making somebody, have a black eye and busting their face open and needing 6 stitches is not one.
So there's high tackle, which means you tackle around the neck or the head, which is illegal. You also have to wrap in the tackle. Unlike football, you see guys like shoulder charging.
Yes.
In rugby, you can't do that. So that would be a penalty. A lot of times that would be like a yellow card too.
Okay.
There's a lot of the penalties in rugby happen at the ruck. So that can be something that's tough to learn at first, like the nuance of those penalties.
Mm-hmm.
So
we don't need to go into all of we don't need to go into all of those, but I mean, I think understandably, like wrapping up in a tackle is going to be a lot more safe for both parties than it is just full throwing your body weight at somebody and trying to hit them with their shoulder and accidentally hitting you with their head.
Yeah. So offsides is another one, like in soccer.
Okay.
When someone's tackled, there's like an imaginary line, like in football too, where the ball is. And you can't be past that line or else you're offsides.
Got it.
And then same for with kicks. So like you can kick the ball down the field, but everyone has to be behind you, or there has to be at least one person behind you who then runs in front of everyone else.
Got it. Okay. So when you're kicking the ball, when you're throwing the ball, you can't like the whole team can't just run to the end of the field and you just like kick it to them. I mean, that would be offsides. Got it. Yeah. It would also be a very messy game.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'd be sloppy.
Yeah, very sloppy.
Well, so going back to the field too. So is the field marked like a football field with yard lines?
Yeah. I got you right here. Ready for
diagram number 2? I love all your diagrams. I'm a very visual learner.
This is a rugby pitch. I have to draw these out for when I
All right. So what was it again? The touch line. Where's the touch line?
The touch line is the solid line on the side here.
Okay.
So if we work this way across the field, you have touch line, then you have the 5 meter line, and the 15. And these are for lineouts, like the cheerleading part that I was talking about.
Yes, thank you.
So the lineout takes place between the 5 and the 15. So that's where the guys will line up. Like if the ball goes out right here, then the guys on either side would line up between the 5 and the 15, and that's where the contest for the ball happens.
Okay, so the 5 and the 15, is the 15 essentially midfield?
So it's only 15 meters. The field is about 60 to 70 wide and 100 meters long from try line to try line.
And then the try zone for our metric folks out there. How long is it in meters?
It's a little longer than a football field.
Okay.
And about, and it's a good bit wider than a football field.
Got it. Okay.
Because it's played so laterally, you need width in the pitch, as opposed to like when you have a narrow field, it's really easy to defend.
Yes.
Well, it's easier to defend.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. That makes sense. So it's broken into meters. Is there like there's no real there's no
there's not
yard
like football
line
where there's
that's
like
a goal.
5, 10, 15,
Yeah.
20. No. So
yeah. The goal is just to get it in the end zone or get it in the uprights.
Exactly. The
Okay.
only other lines are the ones that go up and down the field.
Yeah.
So you have the 5-meter line, which comes into play with like, scrums, and you can't like have a scrum on the 1-meter line. If something happens in there, it comes back to the 5.
Okay.
Then you have the 22, which
Very specific.
is important for 22 meters. I don't know where they came up with that, but if you kick it out directly out from your own 22, then you get a line out where the ball goes out. But if you kick it directly out past the 22, then it comes all the way back to where you kicked it out.
Ooh, okay.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So
no,
that's
that
like
makes perfect sense.
Our team is very like we call it the kick battle. So you kind of try to win territory, as opposed to just like playing a bunch in your own end.
Mhm.
Because if a mistake happens or if a turnover happens, then the other team is right there.
Yeah, you have to come like really far backwards.
Mhm.
Right?
So so like if we were playing in this zone of the field,
Yep.
we just want to get it out into their end.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah.
Because the more you play in your own end, the more at risk you are
of getting scored on.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. It's a more offensive game, not and less a defensive game in that case.
Yeah, so you want to play for possession, get it out of your own end, as opposed to like if football, if you're on, you're on 5, you're gonna run the ball, you're gonna go through all your downs. But in rugby, you kind of just want to hit it up once and get it out.
Yep.
Just to make sure, you're safe. And it's safer to play defense from further out than to risk playing attack in your own end.
Yes. Okay. That makes perfect sense. And then the last thing that I want to touch on is rugby season. So, and I kind of the bracket, if you will, of rugby teams. So like we keep bringing up football, but there's like, the AFC and the NFC. So what are the different divisions, conferences in rugby, and what time of year do you guys play in?
So for the MLR specifically, we're still a pretty young league. This is the 4th year. Obviously last year got cut short because of the pandemic.
Yep.
So there's 12 teams total, 6 in the East, 6 in the West.
Okay.
The playoffs is just the top 2 teams from each side.
Wow.
They play each other. It's just a semifinal and then a final.
Okay.
So it's a 16-game season, 18 weeks. So we get 2 byes. Starts in March and the final is in August 1st.
Very exciting. I know. Do you ever play like where are your next few games? Because for people that are listening and for Christine and I, if we can come out and cheer you guys on, no pun intended, with my cheerleading jokes that I've been making this entire time, we would definitely love to. Yeah.
So we play Rooney in the New York team in New York. And then we have a couple home games again against like Houston, and I can't remember the others. I don't think that far ahead.
That's okay. That's okay. No worries. Typically, I do not, Christine and I do not cheer for any Atlanta-based teams because we are Carolina Panthers fans and all Carolina fans through and through. But for you, Jason, we will cheer on the Atlanta rugby team.
We're the closest one to Charlotte.
Okay.
The next closest would be DC.
Like the Braves.
But yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So
we're forced to be Braves fans, so we'll be forced to be I keep wanting to say Atlanta, but it's ATL, rugby ATL.
Yeah, you could say Atlanta, rugby ATL.
Okay.
Anything like that.
Got it. Okay. People will know what we're talking about.
Exactly.
Okay,
yeah, we're the Rattlers.
Okay.
Travis told me that you were playing in DC or in Northern Virginia, and I live in Northern Virginia. So I tried to come to one of your games.
Oh.
But there were no tickets. I couldn't find tickets anywhere.
Yeah, well, they had all the limited capacity stuff earlier in the year. That was like the 2nd or 3rd game of the year.
It was
I had a feeling. It was, in Leesburg.
It was literally like 10 minutes from her house. I was like, go. She's like, I don't think we're allowed to.
I knew it had something to do with the pandemic. I was like, I can't find tickets anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was our worst game of the year. So it's probably good you didn't come to that one. I had a pulled groin. I pulled my groin that Thursday before the game. But I had to play anyway. So I was just kind of limping around the field for 40 minutes.
Oh my gosh. All right. We have 4 minutes until Zoom kicks us out. But what is so first of all, congratulations on your engagement. That is very exciting.
Thank you. Walk down my sugar mama.
Oh, that's so sweet. So 2 questions. When do you guys get married? Number 1. And number 2, how does she feel about you coming home with pulled groin muscles and black eyes and stitches in your face?
Yeah. So we don't have a date set. We're looking at 2022. Okay. It's a contract year for me, so we're kind of hesitant to book any, places out. I want to stay in Atlanta, but you never know what happens. And she's used to it by now. We've been together since the 8th grade.
Christine, they've been together since the 8th grade.
That's amazing.
Is that not the cutest thing ever? Aww. And you guys have been long distance. Like, talk about a rock solid relationship. It's total goals.
She's seen all the seasons of my face, so she's just kind of used to I don't think she's in it for the body anymore.
Aw, the bumps and the bruises. She loves your heart more than anything.
For your actual wedding day, that you're not covered in bumps and bruises and
yeah. That's why we're looking for fall.
Plan strategically, Jason. Yes.
Yeah, the season will be over for a while then, so
makeup does a good job, but can't always cover up all those bruises and broken bones.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, Christine, you want to wrap us up?
All right, you guys. Well, that wraps up this week's episode of It's Sports Sis. Jason, thank you for being on and teaching us all about rugby. Without you, we wouldn't honestly know nothing. So you're the best. And thank you guys for listening. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our podcast, subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Oh, and Jason, do you want to plug anything here? What's your Instagram handle?
At that Damm boy. I'm just made it like a couple months ago, so I don't really post much. You don't have
to. Tag you. We'll tag you. We'll get you lots of followers.
There we go. Cheers.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, you guys. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye, Jason.
Jason, you're the best.
Thank you so much. That was awesome.